Okay. And the gentleman as the rear guard there. Can everybody hear me at the back? Yes? Thank you very much. Because we did a sound check earlier, but not for quite some while. So, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, this is a rather special evening at the Liverpool Athenaeum, when we are privileged to have amongst our group several members of the Ferrari Club of Great Britain, so welcome to them, and of course our guest of honour, who is none other than 6 times Ferrari champion racer, and the founder, of course, of Italia Autosport, which are the renowned classic Ferrari maintainers and restorers. So none other than John Pogson. John, who's affectionately known as Pogsoni by the racing fraternity, is going to present a snapshot tonight of his life both on and off the track. So without further ado, I'd like to present to you our speaker and guest of honour tonight, John Pogson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me okay at the back? Great. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight, I can't tell you, it's incredible. I've been excited all week that you've asked me to come and bang on about me, basically. People usually pay me to shut up, but terrific, I can't thank you enough. So this evening I'm going to tell you some stories about not just racing, but about a little bit about my life, but I'm not going to do too much of that because I don't want everyone to be asleep in 5 minutes. But as David has just said, I am the founder and proprietor of Italia Autosport, a Ferrari independent specialist company. I've been involved with my industry for 52 years this year, and 45 of them involved with Ferrari. I am a 6-time British race champion, 5 with Ferrari and 1 with Alfa Romeo. And I'll tell you some stories later on how ridiculous it was to be given someone's £1 million Ferrari F40 to go and race and be told that you need to win or else. I have to pinch myself when I look at my trophy cabinet to see if it really happened, because it really did. I'm also a movie star. with the help of my dear friend and colleague Adrian Larkin, because he's the one that's helped me make videos for YouTube, and have been incredibly successful around the world, and we get communication from all 4 corners of the globe about my stories. Some of them I'm going to talk about this evening. He's the magician that makes everything look good. I just bang on about things. It's silly, really, but that's what it is. So that's basically where we are today. Let's just recap for a moment. So I'm a Ferrari engineer of long term. I'm a businessman. I'm a film star and a racing driver. So I'm a bit of a playboy, I suppose. But to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure where this story starts, because I kind of bring it back down to earth a little bit. Because when I was born ill, and I had a problem, I had a disease, and basically I was in hospital for the first 2.5 years of my life, and the story goes I was sent home one weekend, and my parents were told that you might as well die at home than die in hospital. Well, I didn't. But I have ended up achieving these things in my life. I lived in the rear of a back-to-back house with an outside toilet, with a paraffin lamp. And the tin bath used to come up from the cellar for the bath, the weekly bath on a Friday. That's where I came from. So just moving forward again to the Playboy thing, let's just put things in perspective. I'm dyslexic and slightly hard of hearing because of mainly the illness I had and the racing engines. I'm proud to say it damaged my ears. So I'm not gonna start the story back in those days because it's morbid anyway. I want to start the story when I left school and started working because I couldn't start working soon enough. I couldn't leave school soon enough. Dyslexia in the 70s had another name. It was called dunderhead or stupid. It wasn't called dyslexia because dyslexia hadn't been invented at that time. And slightly hard of hearing, at the back of the class, no one knew anyway. So I had a pretty bad schooling. And I couldn't wait to start working. My father, who was a transport manager for an electric motor company, really gave me confidence. And when I was 8, 10, 12 years old, I was driving on the private land at his factory. I was driving articulated vehicles at 12. The front bit, but one Sunday I connected a trailer and my dad went mad. But yeah, that's what I was up to. This is where I'm going to start the story. Started work. My father didn't want me to follow him into the motor trade. He wanted me to be an engineer, get an apprenticeship at the David Brown gearbox factory in Huddersfield. And I passed my exam and I'm going to be an apprentice thing at the factory. And on the Saturday morning, I was supposed to go and get measured for my overalls for the Monday morning start. Well, I didn't go. I went to the garage and got the job. And I went home and I told my father what I'd done. And to be honest, there wasn't really any shouting. I think he knew what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a mechanic. I wanted to fix cars. So I got a job in a BMC garage as an apprentice. And one Monday morning, fairly quickly after starting work, we all arrived at work and something really weird happened because the Minis and the Austin Maxes or whatever they were, the Austin 1100s, had all disappeared. And in the place, in the showroom, in the workshop, was these amazing cars. I couldn't believe it. I was into trucks, I wasn't into sports cars. I used to go out with the drivers delivering electric motors in my holidays, I was into trucks, but these cars were amazing. They were from Italy. They were called Lancia, which is the correct pronunciation for Lancia. So we're all familiar with Lancia Deltas and Lancia, well, it's Lancia. And Lancia, Fulvia and Flavia, names of Roman roads. These things were amazing. There were 5-speed gearboxes, there were disc brakes all around 4 corners. The styling, everything, it was like, what is this? And there was one particular car, which was a Fulvia 1600 HF. Famous car, very successful in European rally, won everything before the Ford Escorts came. Very pretty car. And it didn't take me long to work out that that was the car. That was the car I wanted to work on. So when one was prepared for sale or one came in for service, I'd pop out of a manual cover. It's like, I'm here, like where did you give me the job? And I soon became the Lancia Fulvia 1600 HF specialist. That's when it started. That's when I fell in love with sports cars, and they were Italian. And I loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. And after a few years, I got restless and decided, do you know what, I want to go and see what the world's about. I didn't go far, I just went to the other side of Huddersfield to a Mercedes-Benz, a newly appointed Ferrari dealership. And I went and I told them, there was no messing about. It was just like, I want to see you because you've got to give me a job. There was no job advertised, it was just, give me a job. Well, I got a job for my cheek. And I kind of went there as a Mercedes-Benz mechanic. But in the same way as the Fulvia 1600 HF story, when a Ferrari came in for service, yes, who was there? And I got the job. And it didn't take long before I was the Ferrari specialist in this dealership. Well, that was amazing. And I grew with Ferrari from the beginning. The UK really didn't see Ferrari at that time. And I was just in the right place at the right time where Ferrari was growing in the UK. And I was growing with it. And I was sent to Italy. I was sent to Maranello in northern Italy to be trained. I spent many, many days and weeks in Maranello being trained to be to expand my Ferrari experience in the mid-70s. And I can talk probably for the next 3 hours about the stories at Maranello. It's a marvellous place. The factory was really old school, and I learnt about various models. I can tell you stories about. Let me tell you a story about a car, a Ferrari, a full-blooded, proper Ferrari from Maranello, really not loved. People put the nose up at it. It's a cheap Ferrari. No one wants anything to do with cars like this. Ferrari Mondial, Ferrari 400 GTs. Awful things. But you have to have been with me on the wet Wednesday afternoon in Maranello in the factory learning about some new gearbox or something, the fitting to these models. 12 mechanics, 2 test cars, 2 plus 2 cars, 4 seats. So we were to leave the factory, 12 mechanics in 2 cars, and go for lunch, and then go to Fiorano, the test track, the official test track of Ferrari, to drive these cars around and learn what we're being taught in the morning in the practical sense. So 2 guys sat in the back, 1 guy horizontal over the knees, driver, passenger, and a bloke sat on the gear lever. So 2 cars, off we pop in the rain. Now you have to have done that to actually appreciate these underdogs, because they're fabulous in every sense of the word, and they shouldn't be treated with such disrespect. They're fabulous cars, and you have to have lived it, and you have to have been there at the time to understand this. So I'll defend these motor cars greatly, and we spent the afternoon testing. And another weird thing, which up until just recently I thought was just normal, was natural life, you know, it just happened. I don't know why I'm making such a big thing about it, but we'd be trained in the morning and go for lunch at the factory restaurant, the Cavallino. And you'd sit down, 12 mechanics and whatever, and there they are, here we are talking about this, that, the other. Nicky Lauda would walk in his racing overalls. He would, with his mechanics, he would come and sit at the next table and talk about. We'd be talking to him about what's going on. You know, what have you been testing? What's new and what's happening? And the mechanics and Nicky Lauda would speak to me. You know, they'd speak to us. They would really human beings. You know, they're real people. I don't see that happening today somehow. It's a strange world and sad in many cases. But it did, and I just took that as normal. That's normal life, isn't it? And then Anu and Alberto and Berger and people, you know, we would talk to them like, you know, we're training Ferrari mechanics and you guys, and there was no barriers whatsoever. It was incredible. And I guess in my later life now, I'm reminded that, well, John, you know, it's not normal, you know. It is quite special, that, and not everybody on the planet is able to do that. It's a sad thing. Another sad thing is we usually get a treat at the end of the course. And one particular time we had a treat to go to Dino Ferrari's office to see it. And it's a shrine. It's left exactly the way that Dino left it before he died. Enzo's son, Alfredo Ferrari, Dino for short. And he had a muscle wasting disease, and a 24-year-old man died. The kid died. It was horrendous. And whilst he was in his latter years of 24-year-old, he said to his father, Father, I want to get involved with making small engine Ferraris for you. We could go race various things with these 2-litre V6s. And Dad said, well, you know, tell you what, son, look, we make big V12s, you know, we don't make little cats, you know, don't make little engines. And so, no, but Dad, you know, you could do all sorts of things if you just let me do this. And so he said, well, look, okay, he says, I love you, son, you know, the factory's your factory, do what you want to do. And you Ferrari guys in here will understand the end of that story, that, you know, he was responsible for doing this before he died. It affected Enzo and his wife, Lena, so badly. And Enzo was going through difficult times in his life through Italian law. He was criticised for being responsible for killing his drivers. He's a respected god of a man, but it was a bugger. He was, honestly, and he would say to the teammate, he would say, do you know what he said about you wouldn't believe it, you know, just to wind the job up so that he would beat him, and he would create this anger between his drivers, and then, you know, one guy would die, you know, he would crash, and the courts were taking him to the cleaners, and alongside that he loses his son, and he went very recluse, you know. He very rarely came to the races, perhaps just the Italian Grand Prix or something, but he changed as a person, and I can't really imagine how that must feel. He had plans for Dino. His factory was going to be Dino's factory. And I, for you non-Ferrari people among us, may well have heard the terminology Ferrari Dino. That's so disrespectful. You don't say Ferrari Dino. There isn't such a thing. The product is either Ferrari or it's Dino. It's two different brands, and it must be respected for that. So what's really sad is the factory keep promising to bring out a new model Dino, and guess what? The new guys fresh from university are going to call it Ferrari Dino. That's just life, isn't it? But that's the way it is. So we went to the office, and it smelt of wood and old varnish. You know, it was not unlike this place, to be honest. It was a real life shrine to this man. His pen was on the desk, and it was just left exactly as it was. And I can't honestly get into that. I have two beautiful daughters. I'm very lucky. But he forgot where I am with this now. It's a bit of a delicate story, this for me, so bear with me, because I don't know why I'm telling this, because I get upset. But a father came to me and said that my 17-year-old son is dying of cancer, and he's got a bucket list of things to do before he goes. And one of them was to be taken out in a Ferrari F40 before he leaves us. And I wonder if it could be possible, because you're a Ferrari F40 racer, and so what fitting person to take my son out in an F40? So I rang a client and I explained the situation, and of course the client said, yeah, of course, John, not a problem, you know. And so we went for a drive, and I spent time with this kid, because he was talking to me about he wants to be a racing driver like me. He wants to get his racing license, and he wants to do this, and he wants to do that, and he's making plans, you know. And so I said, that's fine, you know, we'll go to Donington, and we'll get your race license, and I'll give you some coaching, and we'll do a thing, and do a that. And then he died, you know. And I was really shocked with this, because he died on the Sunday night, and his father rang me on the Monday morning and said, you fancy doing that? You know, he's just lost his son, and there's a family involved, everything involved. And he rings me to tell me that this has happened, and why did you do that, you know? So oh dear, right, so will you come to the funeral? Yeah, I'll come to the funeral. So I have to ask him because, you know, at the crematorium he's mentioning me. Got to thank John Pogson. Thank John Pogson for God's sake, you know, this is, all the people from the cancer hospital are there, and they're like, don't thank me. I didn't do anything, did I? And so I have to ask the dad, and I said, why do you keep mentioning this? And he explained that before you took him out in the car and got talking about what you're going to do, he'd given up. His life was done. And you extended my son's life. And inevitable happened. I'll never be able to thank you for that, you know. And it really touched me, that story. So I got a bit of a dose from Enzo, you know. It's a story. I don't really know why I've told you that story, because it's got nothing to do with racing Ferraris, does it? There he is, that's an happy chap, isn't it? So I think what I'm trying to say is that my business makes dreams come true. And when a present client was at university or he's whatever, he's got no money, he sees the guy in the Dino or the Miura or some fancy motor car at university, and they say, where's David? And they say, I'm going to have one of them one day, you know. So what they do is they come to me. So they've grown up, they've had the family, they've made the money, and they come to me and they say, I want one of them, you know. Not one of them perhaps, but a Dino or a Miura or whatever. So my job is to go and find something, the best that I can. And by that I mean, I want something that's not been ruined and wrecked by bad restorers. I want something genuine and unmessed with. And then I will make a motor car that doesn't look brand new. I restore cars from piles of rust into things that look like they haven't been restored, look like they're 2 years old. And that's bringing a dream to the guy, and I keep the smell. I've had a walk around this marvellous place with David, and one of the things that impressed me more than anything was the smell of things. You walk into the library, I mean, it's incredible. And I get that because my cars, my pieces of motoring art and antique, they've got to smell right, you know. So I've got to produce this thing, and I've made a dream come true. And I could tell loads of stories about people actually getting emotional about what I produce. I work with automotive art. I've got pals, believe it or not. Some people actually don't get bored of these stories, or maybe they do, I don't know. But they're into American hot rods and custom cars and things. And I get dragged along to a car show, and I, you know what? I have a bad habit of insulting people. So if there's any American car people in here, sorry. And John, you are. I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. But the guy, my friends say, what do you think to that chrome engine bay and the flames up the side, John, and thing, you know? And I said, you're winding me up. You've got to be winding me up because I work on Rembrandts, you know. I restore art, you know. Don't talk to me about customizing things. Sorry, but that's what I do, and that's what I'm quite happy doing. That I do restore art, and we've just finished the chairs and flares Dino, guys. You'll know what that is. Special Dino, very rare. Well, a chap in Monaco, and it turned out it came to me as a piece of scrap, a red car, and we stripped the thing to. It's a very rare thing. So it was worth spending the money and making something nice. And we stripped it all back and took the paint, red paint off, and we found its original colour. And its original colour was Nocolite, which is like bronze. And I rang the guy and I said, it wasn't a red car, you know, it was a bronze car. He said, yeah, I know, because it was originally owned by the Malaysian royal family, and he said, I knew them, and I drove the car when it was new, so I'm not having it in that colour. It's awful. So I did say, well, you've got to put it in its original colour. And he said, no, he said, I want it in silver or blue or something. And I said, no, you're not listening to me. And I've got a bit of a reputation for this. and I mean what I say. And I said, no, you're having it in its original colour. And he said, well, I'm the customer. And I said, I'm not doing the job unless you let me paint it in its original colour. How about that? And it's an expensive restoration. I don't want it. It's not what I'm not putting my name to something I'm not happy with. And he said, I got my way. And he said, be on your head. Right? And I said, it'll be fine, trust me. So we restored this motor car, and it's, to be honest with you, it's one of the best things we've ever done. And even though it was a pile of scrap, I salvaged the interior material and the seats and the dashboard, which is a peculiar type of suede, and it's 40-year aged. So I'm not going to put a new one in, am I? You know, would you put a new frame on a Rembrandt? No, you wouldn't. I'll tell you stories about that in a minute. I restored this motor car, and I think it's probably one of the best things we've ever done. And somebody came over from Ferrari to examine what we'd done to this motor car, and they were bowled away. They really were. It was so 2 years old, this car. We some well-known Ferrari restorers in this country, which I won't name, but they have a reputation for, God, look at that, shiny as hell. That's really good. Look at that. It looks like it's brand new. These uneducated people are not aware what they've just said. Because you don't want it brand new, do you? You want it 2 or 3 years old. It doesn't want to look like it's just been built yesterday. And this is what these people do. I have one in my store at the moment, which was restored in Germany by a top guy, and it's rubbish. And I said so. But we have a bucket with cadmium plating, gold cadmium plating, screws, washers and fixings and things that are 2 and 3 years old. We went to the platers, we got these shiny things and we put them in a bucket, forgot about them on purpose because they've been matured. Because then when we build a car, we don't bring out this sparkly thing that was done yesterday. It's matured, it's weathered. And then the end product ends up as something rather special. So the guy, he admitted I was right, and the car in the sunshine in Monaco looks amazing, and that was the result. So I'll tell you loads of stories about this sort of thing, but I want to talk about racing, because racing is more interesting than all this rubbish that I'm telling you about. I'm calling them Dino and Ferrari Dino and so on. But racing, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. I'm glad you asked, because for donkey's years, I've been building Ferrari racing cars quite discreetly. And I built some really good cars. I built cars that have been so good that the owner wouldn't race them and took them to special class Concorde and got a trophy. And he never went racing. But some went racing and they were very successful. And some weren't. And I've spent so much time on a pit wall running a driver that is he's so pathetic, he's so not brave. And I'm getting wet and I'm watching this and I'm in despair, but this is what I do for a living. And one time, one of these guys who was quite happy to race his motor car at the middle pack and back of the grid, he was perfectly happy doing that, as some people are, because I have to explain that if you race a racing car, it doesn't automatically make you a racing driver. It's bad terminology. A racer is the one, not a racing driver, a racer. I've trained people and they appear to hit a wall. I can make them quick round the circuit. That's good with the rock lap time, very good, isn't it? But I can't teach them to race. I can't teach them to do it even if it kills you. Sorry girls, but I mean that. I mean that. It means that you've got to break through that wall. And not many people do, to go to that comfort wall and to stay there, and they just never learn anything, but they're quite happy to be middle pack. To the point of that They wear overalls with a Ferrari badge on. They have a great weekend finishing 14th. And they load the car up, they leave the racing suit on, and they go home, stopping at nearly every petrol station on the way home. Racing driver. Oh, look, there's a racing driver. And that's fine. And I'll tell you why it's fine, because if they're getting fun out of that, that's all right. And it's about having fun. Not for me. Not for me. I go motor racing to win. I don't go motor racing to come second. And I'll win at any cost without cheating. And I had a great mentor. And his name was Ayrton Senna. Now, he didn't know he was a mentor. I never met him. But I watched him and I listened to him. Absolutely insane, obsessed with, I get him, I absolutely get him where he's coming from. And I liked it. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in someone's £1 million car, alongside someone else, for the corner. And I want that man to fully understand it's my corner. There's no ifs or buts. And you need to believe it. You need to believe it that you better brake, because if you don't, you're not going to finish the race. And I mean that. You're not going to finish the race. So you need to get used to that every time you get me alongside you in somebody else's £1 million A40, it wasn't worth £1 million at the time, but it was still worth a lot of money. You've got to believe I'm having it. And it was important for me to put that message across, even if it was a little touch as we're going to the corner. You had to believe it's my corner. And there was a game going on, because it was good sport to come up behind me and touch me as I turn in. It's good sport to kill an F40, because it's a very special car, as an F40. There's one. And they had a road car. That was our racing car when it was. When I was examining it for the customer before he bought it. And it's basically a race car. You've got to modify it a bit, but it's very rare, it's very expensive. So I mean, I'm driving someone's pride and joy. But I did get chastised severely from the owners of these cars when I came second or third. And it was serious stuff. You know, it was, I'm not letting you in this car, come second. You've got to win the championship. Well, excuse me, but it's not as easy as that, you know. But that's the pressure that I was under, and I had to, whatever it took, I had to win, you know. And that's what I did. And those were the thoughts behind I'm having it, you know. So a guy in my office telling me about, I think it was a 1990. 4 or 5 championship, I think, and he ran a car, and he wasn't very quick. And he was explaining this fantastic circuit in Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps. What a great circuit! Most of the Formula One drivers love that circuit, and you've got to, if you ever get the opportunity, John, you must race Spa-Francorchamps. Well, I've been there loads of times as a mechanic, but never raced it. And he said, I tell you what, he said, this season, he said, the second and third round of the championship is at Spa. And I'm in America, so I've got a really good idea. And he said, well, why don't you race my car at Spa? Well, after long debate and concentrating on coming back with the right answer, I think it was 1.2 seconds. Anyway, yeah, we'll do that. So off we popped, we went to Spa. And I hadn't been in business long, to be honest, and it was a lot of money in the bank, you know. Don't really need to be crashing this man's car. But I went out qualifying, and I did all right, you know. Okay. And then the Saturday afternoon came, and I went and won the race, you know, in a battle, in a dogfight with a guy who was a bit of a dirty player and knew quite a few tricks. Well, I know those tricks now, but they put some dents in this man's car, you know. But I won, you know, I won the race. And it happened to be the last race of the day, and we hadn't time to go back to the hotel to get showered and changed, so we went for the meal, like tonight. Right overall. So what was I just saying? I mean, the story goes sort of diverts itself a little bit, because I travelled there on a motorcycle, and I wasn't drinking, and the party went on, and eventually people were saying, "What's it like going around?" I said, "Well, why don't we go on the bike? I'll take you around. You know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, so we should be okay. So let's go around Spa a bit on the bike." So I was taking passengers round on the back of my bike till God knows what time around Spa. And then on the Sunday, I went and won again. I won both races. So I think we telex the man back in the 90s, and in America, well, he was over the moon. And I did mention that I put a couple of dents in his car. Well, that's fabulous, that. Don't take them out. Those are battle scars. Leave them as they are. So he came back from America, and he was ecstatic. So he said, "Right, you've got to get some sponsorship, and you've got to win me the championship. That's what you've got to do." Because that's what happens in motor racing, isn't it, guys? You just go and win, don't you? You just win a championship. It's easy as that. It's not. Anyway, that's what he wants me to do. So we got a bit of sponsorship, and we stripped a bit of car out, and off we went. And I could talk all evening about this thing, but I won the championship first season out. Now, I explained that we were running a Originale car. That's a standard car, basically, with some different tyres on, and different brake pads and some seat belts, sort of thing. And the other class, so there's 2 races going on. There's that Originale class, and then there's a modified class with the F40s and modified Testarossa and all these sort of things are going on in the same race. So you've got two sets of winners. You've got 6 people that are on the podium. So I won that championship with more points than the other lot. I won this championship overall the first time out, because I was more consistent and slightly better than the rest. That's it. That's it. I didn't have a racing career. That was, thank you very much. Thank you. That was lovely, and here's your car and everything great. And what we've done is we seem to encourage some clients of mine to come racing with us, because it was evident that we meant business on the track, but off the track and in the evenings, there appeared to be a lot of rock and roll going on. There was a lot of fun. Now, basically, because we don't really know each other that well, you'll have to book me again if you want those stories. But anyway, we encouraged a guy with an F40, and he said in the winter, "Why don't you race my F40 the next season and see if you can win the championship back to back? Never been done before." So he lent me his F40, and we were the first people to actually campaign a standard F40 in this country. We were pioneering this thing. So it had to run standard, on slicks, different brake pads. That was it, because F40s were seen to be a fast car, and the modified Testarossa and 308s weren't. Well, they were. They were very fast, and they weighed nothing. And we did some testing. We went to Silverstone and Donington, and I had blowing turbochargers up, you know, and it's quite dramatic. I don't know if you guys remember Murray Walker with the Formula One when they were running turbocharged cars, and turbo would go, "It's the turbo that's gone, you know, the turbo." And that's what was happening. It just filled the old racetrack full of smoke, and that blown up again. So we got to 6, we blew 6. We did a race in Belgium, a non-championship race, and that's a story on its own. Standard F40. I'll go back a little bit. 2 years earlier, whilst running as mechanic a client, it was called Ferrari Spa Days. It was all Ferraris all weekend. And one particular race was a spectacle where the Le Mans, the ex-Le Mans F40s, the LMs and Evolution cars, very well developed and very fast things, were in battle. And I was stood on the pit wall watching this. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a race quite like it. Unbelievable. Spa has a straight into an airpin called La Source, and I'm on the railing watching this, and there's 6 of these things in battle, and then serious battle as well. And then right at the last minute, the 6 aren't going to fit around this corner, and right at the last minute, they come off the throttle and flames shoot out the back of these things, and I've never seen anything like it. It was an experience that unbelievable, and it stuck in my mind. And I wouldn't, in my wildest dreams, have thought that 2 years later I was going to be in that race in an F40, and I was. A standard one. Saturday afternoon qualifying. Spa is really cruel on weather, and it can be raining on one half of the circuit and dry on the other side of the circuit. But this particular qualifying was just wet. It was seriously torrential. And I was qualifying against Evolution F40s, Le Mans F40s, factory prototypes, all sorts of really serious gear. And the conditions were that bad that the spray, you couldn't see anything, not a thing. The only way I knew where to brake or turn into the corner was to look left, to look at the sign, the scenery, to see where I'm going to do this. You know, is there a car there? I don't know. I'm a racer. I don't care. I'm not thinking about that. Anyway, I ended up qualifying this thing 3rd on the grid among all this stuff. My advantage, because they couldn't use the power. They were more powerful than me, but they couldn't use the power because it was raining. And I'm slightly insane. It's not brave, it's just insanity. So I put it 3rd on the grid. And then on Sunday, the race came, and the sun came out, and I'm 3rd on the grid, and I wasn't going to win. So it was TV, it was televised. I'm holding my 3rd position for quite a few laps. Bang! Turbocharger goes, and it fills the whole bloody place up with smoke, and I don't finish. And that was really sad. So we blew a lot of turbochargers developing this car. So in this, we were despondent and embarrassed because it was looking bad for me, it was looking bad for Italia Autosport, and it was looking bad for Ferrari. Because at the time, the F40 was a very high profile Ferrari. It is today, but it was then. On the Thursday, I think it was, I got a call from a man at the factory, and this guy said to me, he said, and I'm going to say it's in Italian so that you get the flavour of what. He said, "Mr. Pogson," he said, "we understand that you're having problems with your F40 turbochargers." And I said, "You're right, that's absolutely right." He said, "Well, this is no good." I said, "Telling me it's no good. We're going to stop the project because it's embarrassing for everyone." So he said, if I had sent you, Italian, you know, if I had sent you 2 special turbochargers, will you fit them and continue with your project? I said, "Oh, okay." So 2 turbochargers were freighted in to my garage, and we fitted them, tested it round the block, put it in the wagon, and went to Silverstone. And we never had a problem with turbochargers again. And I went on to win that championship with a maximum of 142 points out of 144, because you have to drop some rounds, and we did because of the turbochargers. So we didn't cheat with the turbochargers, because if you're to buy a turbocharger today for an F40, that's the one you get. And the reason basically is because the factory told me that we built the Ferrari F40 not to race, it was just to be on the road. And so you're not on the throttle very much on the road, are you? So the turbocharger is not under stress. But when you're on a circuit, there's only two positions on the throttle, isn't there? There's on and off, you know. And so when you come off, it twists the turbo and breaks the turbo. And it never happened again. Fantastic. But in that race, in Spa, when I was qualifying, and qualified 3rd on the grid, I want to talk about emotion now, because I don't know anything quite like motor racing for bringing out the most weird emotions. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there are other things, but my experience is that I've never really come across anything quite like this. And so I just qualified this thing, third on the grid in the rain. And then you do the slow down lap and then you come in back to your garage in the paddock. And on the slow down lap, I started to feel a bit strange, you know. And so drew it into the garage, and the mechanics then took over and prepared it for the race. And I went to the back of the truck to take my overalls off, and I started to shake, you know. And then I started to cry like a baby. And it was the adrenaline that was just coming out of me. It was just a build-up of adrenaline. And I've never known anything quite like motor racing. It's a roller coaster from the minute you leave base, basically, and you go to somewhere in the UK or somewhere abroad. It's the roller coaster starts. The transporter might break down, or you might be late. You might miss a ferry or whatever. It starts. The roller coaster starts when you leave base, and then you get there. And then I go and crash it or something. You qualify or I break it or whatever. And so the guy, it's just a roller coaster. And to be honest with you, it's kind of, the more downs you have, the bigger the up is. It's incredible. And you start crying and things. Especially when you win. You've had all this thing, you know, and then you go and win. And the crowd go mad. I've never seen anything like it. You feel incredible. And people have come to the side of the track and they're waving, and it's like, wow. And when I was a little boy and I went to watch motor racing, I remember one thing really impressed me, and that was when a driver won and he'd do his slow down lap, he used to wave at the crowd. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really nice thing for the driver to do, to acknowledge his audience. And that's what he was doing. So, I used to wave at the crowd as well. But because of the build-up and the roller coaster, and you've just won, and the pressure just poof, it just disappears like that, fast like that. And you get emotional, you start crying. It's really weird. But I know the Formula One guys do as well, so it must be all right, wasn't it? So we won that championship that year, and we then concoursed the car. Now, Concours d'Elegance is a beauty contest for cars. Now, I've won a lot of Concours d'Elegance beauty contests in my time, but I tend not to get involved with it much these days because it's a shambles. The judges are not qualified to judge the originality of something because they're only 12 and they weren't there at the time, and I'm not 12 and I was, so I know what was right, and it's just a shambles. And I get into all sorts of trouble saying things like that, but I don't care. I'm enjoying myself. Are you enjoying yourself? Yeah. There's no one asleep yet. That's good. So we won the concours. So that car's actually got a plaque on the dash now, and it says that it won this, that, and the other, and it holds the record. It still holds a record at Zandvoort in Holland, with me in it, and it's in the history books. And the reason for that is because they changed the circuit, so they can't really beat the time. But anyway, it counts. You know, it's in there. And I did lots of pole positions and lap records and so on. So, and then we kissed it better and gave it some TLC and won the concourse. And the car lives with me. The customer doesn't really use it. I use it more than he uses it. And he's a nice man. So, you know, Mr. Chris Woodhead, I've got to thank you so much for your patience and your trust with your F40, because I don't think anybody would have been silly enough to lend me an F40 to go race. But somebody else did, because I actually was loaned 2 F40s to go race, which I find quite strange. And in between the 2 F40 seasons, I got the opportunity to drive a Ferrari 355X Challenge car. And that's a series that runs in Europe all over the world, but in the European circle, there's Italy and there's France and there's Britain. They all have teams and they go out and destroy the cars. Anyway, my sponsors bought 2 ex-Benetton sponsored Italian cars, very quick cars. And we managed to get, for the 98 season, I think it was, and we managed to get Hewlett Packard as sponsors. in 1998. Now I want you to just use your imagination for a minute, because we were promoting something absolutely mind-blowing in 1998. We were sponsored to promote jet speed and mully fish. Now, jet speed and mully fish, you're not going to believe what I'm telling you, but what that means is that on a computer, you can play racing cars with somebody in America or Australia on their computer. You believe that? In 1998. And that's what that was about. I'm being sarcastic, you should be laughing now, because it's not, it's just second, that's what everybody does, isn't it? But anyway, that's what happened then. And what they went and did on me, the Ferrari Owners Club, was that in that period of my racing, there was 3 races going on. There was the modified F40s and lightweight Tesseros and whatnot. There was the Originale class at the back, and in the middle, there is the 355 Challenge class. There was 3 winners. Because the 355 Challenge cannot beat an F40, I don't think. I can't beat an F40 with it. I qualified them twice, but it was raining. And so, I was trying a bit hard that season to do well for my sponsors. I wasn't going to give up just because I was a bit outclassed with horsepower. And this particular time was the 2nd of August. And that's significant to the story in a minute. But at Donington again. And the lead F40 had taken off. We're not going to catch him anymore. But I was in battle with quite a quick lightweight. And I was in 3rd position. Now, at the bottom end of the pit straight, where my guys are with the boards, at the bottom end is Redgate corner. And the hospitality, it surrounds the Redgate corner. So if you're going to pull anything smart, you need to do that in front of your sponsors. So I got this guy set up, and a couple of laps before my move, I threw him some dummies. And coming into the corner, I would pretend to come on his inside, so he'd block me. But if he blocked me, that means he's going to have to take the long way around the corner, because I've dived back left to take the quick way through the corner, and that's what was going to happen. So I threw in a couple of dummies, and he responded. So I was going to do the opposite to that. So I was just to get his confidence. So this is the lap, and I come on to the pit straight through the S's, and I'm so close to this guy because I have to stay close to pull this off. And Nicky and Sarah was in hospitality with the mum, and the sponsors were there, and it was a big deal and televised. And so what happened was we touched, and we both sort of went sideways, but my car went sideways more, and it went across the grass, and I had it on opposite lock. I didn't take my foot off the throttle, because the theory is that you keep the throttle in and it'll all be all right. Well, it was all right, because it came back onto the circuit, and I'm in pursuit again. And something really weird happened, because the car had sort of twisted itself up. There was energy in the car and the suspension. And I was dealing with this strange feeling, and I buried the throttle and got up to about 80-ish in pursuit to pull off my move at the next corner. And suddenly, the car turned left and went through the pit wall. Now, you understand that everything has to bounce. So if a car hits a wall, it's going to bounce out. But I don't remember it bouncing, because when I hit the wall, I was unconscious. Or I was unconscious when I hit the wall. So I don't remember the bounce. So I don't actually remember hitting the wall. I knew it was happening, I knew it was going to happen. But it punched a great hole through the pit wall. And then it came out and went in backwards, tore the rear end off, and burst into flames. And I was unconscious. Now, the young apprentice in the team, who was stood exactly where I went in, well, he was in shock. He was in shock. He should have been sat where I was sat. And we had to take him to medical because he wasn't happy. And my chief engineer got cooked with debris, which is not funny. So he had to go to medical as well. So they stopped the race, and about 20 minutes later, I came round, supercharged. And it was like, I'm all right, just go, all right, okay. And my car was full of orange angels. There was angels everywhere, all orange, surrounding the car. Like, where am I? But there were marshals and medical people, who were doctors, taking them in the car. My helmet was off. And they said, just calm down, just stay where you are. And they started checking all the plates in my back and my neck and things. Now in those days, we don't have what we have today, which is a device, a collar that goes around the driver's shoulders and clips to the helmet. So if you hit something hard, you don't break your neck. We didn't have those. So that's probably what knocked me out. But they eventually lifted me out of the car, and Nicky said, well, what's happened? You know, and it was on the telly. But I was okay. I was walking, I was walking into the ambulance and then up to medical. And I was just bruised, really. My knees with the dash and the belts, and the buckle had actually gone in there as well, which is not a really good place to go in. But the guys decided that we're going to rebuild this motor car as fast as possible and not miss a round of the championship, which was in 2 weeks. And it was August. Now Europe goes on holiday, especially Italy, in August, so you're not going to get any parts out of the factory. So my friends at Ferrari UK got somebody in Italy to go to the factory to get the parts out, and a really good friend of mine, whose company was an international freight company, called round at Maranello, got me parts, and got them back to Britain. So my guys are stripping the thing down to nothing for the shell to go away to the body shop and all the mechanical pieces to be mended back at base. And on the Friday evening of the next race weekend, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was testing the car around our village. I'm not going to talk about how legal this car is, but anyway, that's what I was doing. And the car was perfect. We didn't have to adjust anything. We just put it in the wagon, and we went to Silverstone. And we all sort of slept in the wagon or wherever we could, and then up early, prepare the car, qualifying. I qualified the car 4th on the grid. And all weekend we never put a spanner to that car, which was fantastic. And it just shows how good our guys are. And we went on to do good with the car. We're never going to win a championship that year, but I did out-qualify their 40s, 2 in 2 races. There was a pair of them, and I out-qualified them in the wet. Once at Old Park and once at Castlecombe. Now I don't know what this means, because I do really well in the wet, so I think it's the stupidity in me. But us racing drivers, us racers, we're a funny lot, because we like to play the hero thing a bit. So, well, you're going to get back on the horse, what you're going to do. Well, it'll be all right, it'll be okay. I'm an hero, I'm going to get back in, I'm going to do the same thing again. And I'm not going to race unless I'm going to race to kill myself. That's what's going to happen. And we pretend to be heroes. And it's not right, because I've got a great admiration and respect for real heroes, people that do it for real. We do it for fun, and it's not that heroic, is it really? This evening came about because I had the fortune to bump into one of these heroes, basically. And I don't want to embarrass the man, but I don't deal with sales. I'm not a salesman, but one of my clients asked if I could sell a car on his behalf, and so we advertised it, and David Cox came along to look at this motor car, and he ended up buying the motor car. Now I didn't know his background, and he didn't know that I've got a particular passion for the Vulcan bomber, and I think we're all familiar with the Vulcan bomber, aren't we? It was a very important atomic deterrent in the 60s and 70s, the Cold War bomber. And these crews lived in their suits, and they were called to go, and they didn't know if it was a live sortie or not. until they got up there. So the instruction was, don't come back to base because there won't be one. Because Russia's just sent some missiles over, there won't be a UK when you get back. So don't come back. So it'd be interesting saying goodbye to the missus, wouldn't it, I suppose? And so just go to Russia, drop your bomb, turn right and run out of fuel. Wow, that's heroic stuff, isn't it, I think? So we went up to my office, and then there on the side cabinet there is a big model of a Vulcan bomber. And so David said, you're into Vulcan bombers? I said, oh yeah, a little bit. And he said, well, I'm an ex-pilot. I used to fly these things, you know. Really. And we developed a friendship. It was quite an extraordinary thing. And what happened was that he organised something really special for me, and I had to go to Doncaster Airport where the last flying Vulcan is now grounded. And I turned up like a red letter day. But I wasn't there 2 minutes when two fluorescent jacket people came to see me and said, do we have a John Pogson here? And I said, that? And he said, right. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, dear. What does that mean? And he said, well, you've just won a raffle and it means that you can do something really special. What's that? So I had the most amazing day. And I made friends with the chief engineer, and what was happening on that day was they started the 4 engines, and then they were going to put 1 engine under full throttle. Oh, I've never experienced anything quite like this. And I'm stood under the wing, and there's a video of me stood under the wing, and it's just like, there is this sort of, if you step through that, you're going to be in 22 or something. It was an amazing experience. So I couldn't thank him enough. Thank you very much, David. That's fantastic. So I said, well, don't get too comfortable because I might just pull the favour back. And that's why I'm here tonight. But it's an absolute pleasure. And I think where I'm at with this right now is that from an ill kid sent home to die with dyslexia, slightly hard of hearing, to being Ferrari engineer, to being businessman, to be racing driver, to be movie maker. And now this evening, I've just become an after dinner speaker. We haven't dinner yet. And I'm really pleased because no one's fallen asleep, no one's left. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope sincerely that you've all found that a little bit interesting. And I warn you that if you book me again, we can talk about the rock and roll stories when my daughters are not here. But I don't know you well enough for that. And I thank you very much, very, very much indeed.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, we're going to have a prize raffle. And John, I think, is going to do the honours in a moment. So I will go and find my apology for a bush hat. And is this working? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to ask, there's one member of the Ferrari Club, I think, has put 10 tickets in with his name on.
Excellent.
But,
excellent.
We can have a look.
Have we talked about what this is?
No, we haven't. It's on the prize certificate, but please
Okay.
do, yes.
Well, just in case you want some more, this prize is to visit me at my Italia Autosport base and spend time with me, being shown around my workshops, my store, and see the projects that we're on with. And for those who are daft enough or brave enough, you can come out with me in something really quick over the Pennine Moors, hopefully when it's raining. But it'd be nice if it's not salty, and I'll let David finalise that.
Okay. Well, you still need this. You've left yours over there, haven't you? So.
Can we share?
Well, I don't see why not. Right. You've got your glasses on, so would you like to announce the winner? And
Okay.
he or she could...
It's a Mr.
Oh.
Philip Cowan.
Would you like to take the stage, please, Philip?
You want more?
Everybody that attended went in the draw, so congratulations. Would you like to?
So there's a certificate of ticket. It's got some instructions on. Get in touch with me or my secretary, and we'll set up a date to suit you and partner, wife, whatever you want to bring, and we'll have a bit of fun.
And I might well see you on the day. So.
And that's right, Dave's got to join us. Yeah.
Congratulations. And now, we haven't quite finished yet. I'm going to ask John to take any questions from the assembly.
You can ask me anything.
Yep.
Now, if I haven't got the answer, I'll just make it up. So, who's first? Gentlemen.
Can I just bring the microphone down to you so everybody can hear? I'll make it look up and stuff.
Yeah, my name's Nigel, and I wondered, because I've met quite a famous dyslexic person who was very successful in business at college. Was dyslexia the spur that made you so determined?
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought so.
Yeah, it's either dyslexia or I was adopted by aliens, because you just try that bit harder. Do you know that Jackie Stewart's dyslexic and Branson's dyslexic, and one of your own guys from Liverpool, John Lennon's dyslexic? There's a pattern, and you just try that bit harder.
In my college, there was a guy called Guy Hands who became the head of Nomura Finance. He was dyslexic, and I do remember he said to me, he was running an art gallery and doing his degree, working all hours, and he said, "I'm not very fit. Can I play squash with you, Nigel?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." We played 3 times, and in the end, we sat in the change room. I said, "I'm sorry, Guy, you're not good enough." 20 years later, I read about him in the Daily Mail. Guy Hands, 50 million a year. I could have been his mate.
I love stories like that. I don't want to get political, but go on, I will. The snowflakes of today, I can't do that. I'm dyslexic. I'll do that. It's just a little lad. I can't do that. Well, you need to send them to me, because I'll show you how to do it. Because you can. David.
There's not many people in this room who
I'm struggling to hear
understand
this.
how tough motor racing actually is. Self-excluded, myself excluded. It is a very, very difficult thing to do. What's been your toughest weekend? What's been your toughest weekend where you had to dig deep?
Yeah, well, I quite often get asked that question. And the answer is I haven't had it yet. Don't get an answer. That means that I haven't done climbing these mountains, so we're going to have the hardest yet. But I have so many. But it's the roller coaster thing, and I said that the lower it gets, the bigger you bounce out to the top. And I don't know. I crashed a car in qualifying at Alton Park at Easter in the snow, and the sponsor had flown over from America. It was a big deal. The weekend was just difficult with the weather, and I qualified in a big pole position in 3 laps, and then I thought I'll go a bit faster than that. On the 4th lap, I put it into a barrier, and so we got it back to the garages, and my guys set to and got me out there again, and I had to play the politician about what I'd done to the sponsors and make everything right, but my guys didn't let me down. That was a tough one.
I think it's when the pressures continue. Sorry, it's when the pressures continue.
Yeah.
It's On my side, it's the endurance racing side of it. So if you go to Le Mans, it's not 24 hours, it's weeks.
Yeah.
And if things continue to pile up,
Yeah.
the amount of not just physical effort but mental effort that's required to get to the end on Sunday it's a very intense thing to go through.
I've done that 2 years in 1890 as a mechanic, and I know exactly what you just said to me. And
it's hard.
It's hard, but you know, it's endurance for man and machine, isn't it? In that case, and I'm just a bit strange, as we all are, because the harder it is, the more difficult the challenge, it depends how much backbone you've got, doesn't it? And I can't feel sorry for weak people. I just struggle with it. Just get a backbone and just try a little bit harder.
You get to a point.
That's what I say.
You get to a point sort of halfway, 3/4 through, and you do question what on earth it is you're doing this for.
Oh yeah.
And then you get to the end, and you say same time next year.
Yeah. It's a real strange thing, isn't it? Why you do it, and yes, you're going to do it again.
We're not wired correctly.
No, absolutely.
What car would you drive if you couldn't drive a Ferrari?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because you see, I get ridiculed because I have a bit of a collection of cars, and I'm 52 years in the business and 45 of them this year in Ferrari. So I love what I do, and I do it well, but I'm not blinkered. I'm actually what they call a petrolhead. And so in my collection I have a 600 records Cobra, I have a Corvette, I have that beautiful blue Lancia that belonged to Rita Lancia, the Nissan Vincenzo. It's never been restored. I'm passionate about that car. I'm going to let you into a little secret if you promise not to tell anybody else, but my everyday zipping about car across the Pennine Hills from home to work, it's usually raining on the country lanes, is an Honda Type R, because I like driving, I like the fun, and so we don't have to have a Ferrari. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Would you buy a Tesla?
I've driven a Tesla.
Yeah.
I have. A client came and said, drive that. And the first thing I said, well, where's the traction control? I can't be doing this. And so he showed me how to turn things on. And I went down the road sideways, this thing laying rubber, and I thought, what? What is this? That was the first introduction to electric cars for me. Okay, they're quick. You don't make a noise, do you? You can't smell it. No. No, I wouldn't buy a Tesla. I've got a
You
quick...
might want to have to a bit.
No, I won't, and I'll tell you why. Because this is my theory. Years ago, our everyday mode of transport was a horse, was it not? Today, it's for fun at the weekends, isn't it? See where I'm going with this? Because my because my cars, my customers, my big juicy B12 fire-breathing things, that's a modern horse, isn't it, for the weekend? So everybody should buy a Tesla and save the planet and leave some petrol for us at the weekend to get our horses to I'll rest my case on that. Yes. Well, they are prancing horses.
Have we got any more questions for Mr. Pogson?
Quick question from a Tesla driver.
Oh, yes, we got one named up on it.
What's your favourite UK circuit?
What's a favourite?
UK circuit.
UK circuit. Donington, I think. Well, if I'm in the mood all the time, it sounds a bit technical, and if you get it wrong, you're going to hit something. And it's out of brakes and it's up and down. I'll tell you what, you're right, it is up and down. I'll tell you why it's up and down. Because we've best European ones fine, and you're up and down and you're out and down. And Ulster Black's very much like that. So I changed that, and I'm not changing it for any other reason other than you just made.
questions?
Sorry.
It's a simple one really, but when did you realise you were quicker than the average and what were you driving?
Well, I said that my father taught me to drive when I was a kid, and in the yard of private land, and it was a long time ago, and the vans were sort of Ford Anglia, you know, and this particular, my first vehicle that I drove was a Ford Anglia pickup, and he sat at the side and explained the clutches and throttles and brakes and things. And it was a lot of land, you know, it was tarmac, and there was the lorry park, and then like half a mile to the trailer park, and then you threw the trailers on. And he was shouting at me, he said, "You've got to slow down in the corners." And maybe it was then. But you know, I don't think I'm super quick, I just think everybody else is slow.
I was born and brought up about a mile from a motor racing circuit, and I saw Fangio and Sterling Moss racing there. It was Aintree. So the question really is, do you think if you introduced jumps into motor racing, it would liven up Formula One?
Yes. Absolutely.
I did see Fangio and Sterling Moss, and I guarantee that Fangio met Sterling Moss.
Don't you just think this is a changing world, isn't it?
Oh, it's
and
different.
What you saw and what I've grown up with and what we're seeing now is, it's our right to be grumpy old men, isn't it?
It is.
To be honest, it's my right now, you know. But was it better when you saw Mansell and Senna at it?
We saw men and machines, now we see machines, teams and men.
When I was racing F40s in the middle 90s, so many people say to me, "Do you know they were the glory days?" And I made a little film about F40, and the story is that the film is called Analog Animal. So analog meaning no electrics, and F40 was the last of a breed. And I raced the car with nothing, no computers whatsoever. Actually, I tell a lie, because F40s do have a computer, and it's connected to the driver's feet and connected to the diamonds in his bottom, and it all goes to the master computer. But that was the analog animal that was dying, and I had no interest whatsoever in driving an electronic car. I wanted to drive a 600 brake horse car with 13-inch rear wheels, and I wanted to make it go around the corner and win a race. And it was said that those were the glory days, weren't they?
There were.
Well, it's debatable. They were for me.
Well, the legendary people,
Yeah.
Fangio,
Yeah.
Sterling Moss,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
Mike Hawthorne,
Yeah.
Carl Bridges Moss,
Yeah.
and then you had the foreign ones like Ed Stenner, who sadly became a legend before his
Yeah.
time.
That's right. What do you think you'd be doing today if you're still alive?
He
You wouldn't stop racing, would it?
probably
It would be difficult to do that.
We've got to take one last question now, John.
Hi, John. Just a question. You talked about the car, the ability of the car, your ability, the weather conditions. Did you have a nemesis in your racing day? A person who you constantly were challenged by, who you wanted to beat, that you really hated, and he hated you?
Do you know,
Have you
seen the film Rush?
Yes.
That's rubbish. It's rubbish. The James Hunt thing, that's rubbish. Because I had one and he drove an F50, and it was ridiculous times and many stories of a man who sold PlayStation to Sony, put a lot of money into the Ferrari Owners Club, and I wasn't to win because I was a Yorkshire sounding lad that used to be a mechanic, but I'm now beating people in an F40, and it didn't go down very well. But I kept winning, I kept beating this guy. And the tricks and the politics that was going on between he and I was ridiculous. And they would reduce my boost pressure, they would make me run lead. I still couldn't do it. And I remember one particular race in the Nürburgring, and I have a sequence of photographs of 170 miles an hour down the back straight into a chicane and then the loop and back down the pit straight. And we're both side by side going into the chicane. And I remembered those words of the owner saying, "You must win at any cost." And purely by coincidence, I had brake fade going into the chicane. And I'm the man that T-boned an F50 with an F40 at the Nürburgring. So yeah, I can name him certainly, definitely, absolutely. Well, no, I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but it was him anyway.
Right, thank you very much. I'm afraid
you,
that's
ladies
all
and
we've
gentlemen.
got time
Thank you very much.
A bit of a memento of your evening. Thank you very much. And we have had the pleasure of John's daughters, who actually I'm quite envious of, because they've managed to have a life. I think you're involved with all of this. And thank you, and it's been lovely meeting you. And just a little something for Sarah and Nicole, so thank you. If I had my life again, I think I'd want to be your daughter and I'd be there in the Ferrari garage. So, thank you.
Would you like to continue? Yes, I can.
John's looked after our car for the last 10, 12 years, and he has a passion, like this fellow here, Enzo Ferrari. And if you look at this little picture here that I've started, it's his son Dino and Farina. So John, one for you all. I'd like to present David with this. It's not often you see a Vulcan with shadows under its wing. He rolled it at Fairford and I took a picture when it was in its display season a good few years ago. So there you are.
Thank you very much. That's,
have a look at
it. And John knows what's coming now, but he's waited quite a little while for this. This is a souvenir. I've left it, I'm sorry, with the bubble wrap on because he has to take it quite a way home with him. And it's the Vulcan XH558, which I actually flew at one time. And it's the last serviceable Vulcan that John was talking about before. And I got this personally signed by Martin Withers, DFC, who flew, of course, the Vulcan and dropped the bombs on Port Stanley airstrip pretty successfully because it stopped the Argies taking off for several days. And also it's signed by Taff Stone, who you met, who's the crew chief and who looks after XH558, and I hope will do so for quite a few years to come. It's still in serviceable condition, although not allowed to fly. It's not got a CAA certificate anymore, sadly, but it does taxi runs, which John was there and saw it taxiing. And it's a beautiful, beautiful aircraft and very aerobatic for an aircraft of its size. So I'd like to present you with this memento. I've signed it on the reverse, and there's a certificate because it's a limited number. And the last valid bit to mention is the fact that it was actually flown on the last flight that XH558 made. So I hope you'll
David,
accept that.
it means such much.